Good afternoon, everybody. It's your boy D Max. So let's talk about it. I sit around and I do a lot of research and I do a lot of study in different things, whatever's on my spirit, whatever's in my heart to study for the time. And I come across things that in that moment I have to speak on those things because if I don't, then I put it on the back burner, I'll forget about it and won't properly do it any justice. So I want to speak about this in the moment while it's still fresh on my brain, and I really just want to get this thought out. And I want to be able to articulate it in a way that it's understood everybody where I'm coming from. And so when I say that the devil is in the details, what I'm talking about is the deceptive language that is used in our society today to fool people into certain narratives and to fool people into supporting things that we shouldn't have any part in. But this takes discernment, this takes wisdom and understanding to be able to see these things and to be able to call them out for what they are, because we have so many people who practice in this deceptive speech, the semantics and the manipulative talk that fools us into a lot of things. And one example of that is advertisements. Advertisements are constantly misleading people and deceiving people into thinking that a product is a lot more than what they're claiming that it is. And when the person has spent their money and they use that product, well, you're just stuck at that point. And so this has always been a common practice in our society with all different types of products. And at what point are we as people going to start to speak out about it and to start to take a stand? I remember back in the day when there was such a thing as what was it, misleading the people. You could actually sue companies for misleading the people with what their product does and what their product stands for. Salute to my brother, Reverend Tony, man. Yeah, I'm in here getting on it one more time, man, because I really have to speak on this while it's on my mind and on my heart, man. We are out here constantly, and we're always being deceived by different people, man. And we know that their intentions are not good, and all they really want is our money, but they'll make it seem like that they're our biggest fan, they're our biggest supporter, they on our team, and they really want what's best for us. But in all actuality, they don't, man. And so we need to start calling these people out, these businesses out, all of these different corporations out for this type of misleading language that they're giving to us, and we're accepting. I was talking earlier in my previous video about Johnson and Johnson and how they were just sued for $302 million because they were deceptive in the language that they gave to the doctors and the patients. And so this is a common thread throughout our society where they use this deceptive language and make us think that we're getting something to benefit us, when in actuality, we don't get the full benefit of what they claim, and they still get the full payment of our money. And so we're losing on this end. And so we have to be able to stand up against this stuff, and as consumers be more intelligent as a consumer and not allow ourselves to get roped into these types of situations any longer, because it's killing us slowly. And so, you know, what are the origins of this? Well, if you're a believer of the Bible, then you can go back to when Adam and Eve were in the garden. And I want to do a take on this that I haven't really heard before. It may not be new to some people. You may have heard somebody speak at it from this perspective, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it anyway because this is what's on my heart and mind to say. So, going back to Genesis 3, chapter 1, whenever the fall of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden, um, we see that Satan came to her and he said to her that, hey, God said that if you eat of this tree, he was asking her a question, said that God said that if you eat of these trees you would die. Said, yeah. Says, so God said you can eat of the trees in the garden, right? Yeah, he said we can eat of any tree in the garden except for the one in the middle, because if we eat from it, we will surely die. And so Satan came along, and this is where it all started with this deceptive speech, because he didn't speak one lie in what he said, but it's the way that he said it and presented it to her to make it look tempting and to make it look good to her and to make it look like a good thing that she was partaking in. So what he said to her was, you know, you won't surely die. God knows that when you eat of this fruit, your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. He did not lie at all in that. God did know that if they ate of the tree, then they would eventually learn what good and evil was by the fall that they were going to take by being disobedient. And so by their disobedience, they ate of the fruit of the tree and they did fall. And in that instance, whenever they fell and whenever God confronted them and he declared what their curses were going to be, in that instant, they began to know what good and evil was. So everything that Satan said came true. What he failed to leave, what he was successful in leaving out, and what he meant to leave out was the part about the consequences that they were going to suffer in order to learn what good and evil was. And so, yeah, they did learn good and evil. They learned that God was good, and they learned that the garden was good, and they learned that Satan was evil. They learned that his intentions were evil, and they learned that the world that they were casted out into was not good compared to the garden that they had the advantage of being in beforehand. And so they learned the hard way what good and evil was. But Satan didn't lie to him one time. Everything that he said was true. Your eyes are going to be open and you're going to be like God, knowing good and evil. But he never told them all of the hardships that they were going to have to go through in order to know good and evil. And even to this very day, this is exactly what we still go through. We get we just get enchanted by these commercials, by these ads, by all of these different devices, by all of these different items that are placed before us and presented before us. And we are told that these items are the greatest things and they're going to enhance our life and they're just going to make things so much better for us if we have these products. And if we don't have these products, we are missing out on something great. And then when we go and get these products, we begin to find out the side effects of these products. And we begin to find out that these products are not what they were talked up to be. And then we begin to suffer. We suffer financial lack. We suffer stability, financial stability, because we spent money on something that we don't need, that we were just persuaded that we needed. And we've lost out on a lot of different things because were pretty much played into doing something that we shouldn't be doing, that isn't beneficial for us, I should say, because a lot of the stuff that we spend our time and our money on is not beneficial for us, really and truly. If we really look at it, look at the things that we splurge on, look at the things that we waste money on a daily basis. We do these things because it's been taught. It's a taught behavior in which we go out and we live the frivolous and lifestyle of excess that we live, and then we'll turn around and say that we're struggling because we don't have any of the luxuries. When we're not struggling, we just don't have all of the things that we want. And so we get caught up in these semantics and we allow ourselves to be led by these different media sites who only want our money. That's all they want. They want our money. They want our views. They want the ratings that is going to produce more money for them. That's all they. That's all that they care about. That's their main intent, but they will make us feel like we are their biggest friend until they get what they want from us. The same thing from politics as well. Whenever those election seasons come around, politicians come through your neighborhoods, politicians come to your job site, they'll come to your church, and they'll make it seem like they're a part of everything that's going on in the neighborhood because they're so locked in with everybody and they really care about everybody. But we shortly see after they get what they want from the neighborhood and they get the amount of votes necessary and they get into their office, they quickly forget about the constituents and the concerns of the people who got them there. And so they will use these semantics and they will play these language games with us and trick us into believing that there's something beneficial in it for us when in actuality it's just something for them. And Satan's trick has never changed over time. It's been the same from day one, and it just continues to loop over and over, and yet and still every time it seems to work to a T. Why is that? Because it caters to our flesh, it caters to our desires. We will often lean towards things that sparks what we want to hear, that stimulates our chakra, that makes us feel like we're a part of something, or makes us feel like this thing is enhancing us in some kind of way, because we're all trying to get back to that original state that Adam and Eve were in when they were in the garden. This is our ultimate goal. We may not know it subliminally, we may not know it psychologically, but ultimately that is our goal. Getting back to that first form, getting back to that ultimate form, because people don't realize that when Adam and Eve fell and when they were cast out of the garden, that celestial body that they had in the garden was also taken away as well, because there are writings which are that didn't make it into the Bible, but they are still merited writings, and they're still used and referenced in the Talmud. They're still used and referenced in the Torah. They're still referenced and used in the Quran. And so these are very legitimate writings. And one of the things that it stated was Adam cried out to God that I can no longer see the heavenly things, and I can no longer see the heavenly creatures, and I can no longer see the great things of the garden anymore because of this body that's been placed upon me. And so that lets us know that when they were cast out of the garden, it was more than just them walking out of the garden into another area and them having to exist in a different land and a different plane. No, there was an actual physical change in the body that took away that original state, that perfect state of mankind when God blew his breath into Adam and created. That body that Adam originally had is no longer was no longer a part of Adam whenever him and Eve was cast out of the garden. And so everything that we're doing, all of this quest to be the best and to be the greatest and to maximize everything about us physically, mentally, spiritually, all of that is a subconscious attempt to try to get back to that very first form that Adam was in before the fall. And so all of these things that we're taking, all of these drugs that we're taking to lose weight, all of these things that we're taking to make our bodies more healthy and strong, all of the vitamins and the supplements and the things that we take, all of these things that we're doing are a subliminal attempt of trying to get our body back to that perfect form. And so with the corporate America knowing this, being very cognizant of this, they utilize this to exploit us for our money. They use this to convince us that they have a product that is going to get our bodies back to that celestial state, back to a state of maximum strength, back to a state of high performance. And we buy into it every time because this is our desire. You know, we always constantly in the church, they're preaching about becoming better people. They're preaching about maximizing who you are. They're always preaching about becoming mature in the spirit. They're always preaching about the power of God. They're always preaching about the power of God lying within us, and us being able to utilize that to strengthen and help others and to be an example unto others. All of this is a description of that first form that Adam was in when him and Eve was in the Garden of Eden. All of that is a description of getting back to that original form. And so Satan knew what he was doing whenever he spoke that slick talk to Eve and was over there in her ear. Yeah, shawty, you know what I'm saying? You eat of this tree, man, you ain't gonna die no physical death. What God's saying is he wants you to be scared because he know if you eat of this tree, you're gonna be like him. That fed into the pride. That's where pride began to form in mankind right there. That was it. That's when pride began forming mankind. Because remember, Satan is not mankind. Satan is of the angelic order. He's of the celestial beings. And so his sin against God was amongst those celestial beings. But the very first sin that entered in mankind was right there, that pride in, wow, I'll be like God. And that was Satan's original crime in the beginning. And so he got Eve with the same thing that he was casted out for, that pride, wanting to be like God, wanting to be above God, thinking that you're on the same level as God. And this is what he beguiled her with. That's the word that they love to use. He beguiled Eve. Man, he just tricked her. He ran game on Eve and he made something look good to her, which was really something that was going to help him in his destruction of mankind. And so Eve being naive, I like that word naive. Is it a coincidence that that word means what it means and it directly attributes to Eve, naive? But she was naive because she had no point of reference. There was absolutely no point of reference at that point from Adam and Eve. They didn't have a mother or a father because they were the first. They had life breathed into them and they were made from the dirt. So they had no point of reference at all for anything. And so they had to be the first ones to take those blows. They had to be the first ones to go through all of the mistakes and learning process to survive in this world that we live in now that we call home. So we can't really put much blame on her. We can't really put much fault on somebody who has no reference point. Their only reference point at that time was God. And as long as they were being obedient to God and following him and seeing him as the only reference point, then they was cool. But as soon as they took their eyes off God, and I don't know why Satan was allowed to be in the garden in the first place after his fall, but that's a whole nother story and another topic that we could talk about on another day. But he was allowed to be in there nonetheless. And him being in there, he took that opportunity to run game. And to this day, that's what the whole entire advertising industry has done. It's ran game on the people. There's been many companies who have been held to the fire for misleading information and for not properly representing what their product is and what their product does. But we've gotten away from that a lot over these last, I say the last 10 years or so. We haven't really been holding these companies accountable, and mainly and particularly the pharmaceutical companies, because this is something that's dealing with our personal individual health. And so we as a people, man, we have to start to check people on that slick talk, that deceiving talk, because there's a lot of people who out here that got saved and they used to be a liar back in their day. That was one of their biggest issues, was lying. And they didn't stop lying. They just learned how to dress their lies up, and they became better deceivers. You know, Jacob, who Israel is named after, his name meant the great deceiver. He was very deceptive. And he used that deception in a couple of instances throughout his life. And, you know, that's not to say it was a good or a bad thing. In that moment, I guess it was necessary for what he needed to get accomplished. But nonetheless, he was a deceiver. And deception is one of the biggest issues today. People will they will say something, but they will generalize it to the point to where it leaves them leniency to be able to come back and dress it up later. Like, oh well, they just misconstrued what I said. What I really meant was this. And so they'll leave themselves just enough room to be able to come back and say that you misunderstood what they were saying. And so now they're going to lay the blame on you for their lie, and by saying that you just misunderstood what they were saying. But it's all in the way that they word things, that they leave themselves this open space to be able to come and backpedal and backtrack on a statement that they make. And so we have to be able to catch this in real time. That's why I'm glad during the Trump administration, they came out with the fact checker. And the fact checker was a real time fact checking system, which would go in and see if what you were saying was legitimate or if it was a lie. And they would come back and let the people know, hey, this is a lie. And I'm so glad that they did that, because there's so many times where we as the people know that it's a lie, but we don't have the resources available, or we don't have the platform to show everybody that it's a lie. And this is one of the biggest travesties and one of the biggest frustrations that Americans have. We know that you're lying to us. We sit here and we have our face turned and twisted at these lies, but you do have a majority, well, I'm not going to say a majority, but you have a percentage of the population who's going to buy into these things. Why do they buy into these lies knowing that they're lies? Well, some of them is out of desperation. They've gotten to a point in their life where they've tried everything else, and they're in a condition to where anything will help. And they're just looking for something that, or somebody to say, hey, I have something that's going to cure what you have, or I have something that's going to make it better. And they will latch on to it in a moment of desperation because they're going through a very hard time. You know, you have people who just want to believe in something. You have people who want so bad to be a part of something that they'll attach themselves to anything that sounds good and sounds like it's going to be something to get them recognized and get them acknowledged. And so they will be a part of this knowing that people are lying. And what I'm talking about now is politics. People will align themselves with different political groups just because they want to be a part of something. Because if that group is to win, then they feel like, hey, I won. Hey, I was right. Because the group is right on this, that means that I was right. Hey, because this group won, that means that I won. So that means that I'm superior. This is the reasoning behind a lot of people's actions in them tying themselves to certain groups. And so these groups will say certain things. And even though those people don't believe those things, they'll still take up for that group, and they'll still associate themselves with that group because of the rush that they got from the winning that they had that one time, or the rush that they got from being right one time, and the being able to say I told you so to somebody. All of these things we're played on. They play on our intelligence, they play on our egos all the time. And they utilize these things. Look, they put psychology into advertising. Why do you think that they use psychology when it comes to advertising? Because that is the study of the mind. Psychology is breaking down how the mind works and how the mind can be influenced. And so they brought psychology into it, and advertising has targeted the minds of the people ever since. You know, it's a psychological battle for a lot of things. I'm looking at a lot of different products right here in front of me right now, and none of these products would be in my possession had not it been for advertising, and had it not been for society making people feel like they're inadequate if they don't have these products, because the companies told you that you're not anything if you don't have these products. You know, and they don't just come out and say it like that, but the influence over society, and by society picking up on these things, and you see that they'll put them into the hands of the most influential people. They started to target the rappers to do their advertising because rap took over the whole music genre as far as influence. And so then you seen a lot of those people who would never ever touch a rapper with a 10-foot pole. Now they're doing collaborations on all types of different things in order to get us to buy their products by using the influence of these entertainers. And so here's that deception one more time. They're going to utilize these people and pay them a whole big bag of money to say that they love this product and that they can't live without this product, when in true actuality, that person don't even use that product at all. And it's a common practice, and we end up utilizing these things because people that we respect, or people that we see as somebody who has things together, we're going to go and mimic that, and we're going to take their word for it, and that by doing harm to ourselves and to our families, while they're not bringing this product into their household and exposing their families to the dangers of these things. You see, it's a real crazy world that we're living in, man, and we have to have wisdom and discernment to be able to discern when somebody's trying to pull this trick on us, because we're constantly being influenced by this. You need this, get that, do this, you should be doing that, act like this, say that. There's all types of influences coming at us from all different directions, and they're using all different types of tricks and schemes to try to trick us into supporting their agendas. So let's read between the lines, man. The devil is in the details. The devil is always in the details. That's where he's always been. That's where he's always going to be, because he knows that we are too lazy to look at the details. He knows that we're too lazy to read the small writing. And so we're going to get duped every time because of our slothfulness in business, finance, love, whatever case it may be. We're slothful in those areas, and we're not going to do too much probing and digging. But, we're constantly going to continue to go in this cycle if we don't get a better mindset, if we don't stop just going out and consuming stuff haphazardly, if we don't go out and stop just splurging on unnecessary stuff, and we start to practice some type of financial discipline, and we practice some type of physical discipline, or whatever area that you need discipline in, so that we can stop being slaves to these corporations, so that we can stop being slaves to these industries who can just tell us anything and we'll jump at it. We have to get past this. This mindset is taking us into a age where the where it's no longer the customer is right. The age that we're going into is either you buy our product or go on about your business. They don't value the consumer anymore. They don't value your life. They don't value your health. They don't understand that by you dying at an early age takes away the consumer power, because they're going to have to wait for the next generation to come up behind and start to generate some type of revenue to become a consumer. Um, so I don't know what the answer to this is. All I can say is that we have to be knowledgeable about the words that are being used in our media. And we have to sit back and not just go on face value. We have to really analyze what is being said and not just jumping out and reacting before we really do some research on something. This is one of our biggest issues. If we took time to break things down and really dissect them and find the meaning in the wording, then you'll see that we're being misled on a regular basis because we just simply glance over things, or we don't understand the definition of a word that's being used to describe something that's very important in our life. So let's get more educated. Let's get some understanding of what this language is that's being used against us on a regular basis, so that we can combat this and so that we can hold up the standard, because we're allowing other people to set the standard for us. And the standard that's being set is based on what they need to gain. And so that's not going to benefit us. And so we need to be the ones in charge of setting the standard, because we are the consumer. We are the ones out here who are making this economy go. And so we should have the ultimate say so in all things. And so, once again, like I was saying earlier, we should have say so in the pharmaceutical industries. But once again, we should have say so in all consumer areas. And that will only come by us checking these companies and holding them to a standard and not allowing them to lie to us, and making sure that they have consequences for lying to us and misleading the consumer. This business should not continue to run if they have a continued pattern of misleading and deceiving the people. No one should. And so let's start to cancel these things that really need to be canceled. This is your boy D Mac, man. I'm about to get up out of here. I appreciate you for coming through, Reverend Tony. And I hope somebody got something out of this, because there's a whole lot of deceptive language that's going around. And it's not just in the consumer market, it's also in every facet of our lives. Boyfriend and girlfriend, husband and wife. There's all of these semantics that be, well, I didn't say that. What I really said was, and trying to use semantics to get over and to not be held accountable for their actions or things that they've said. We have to start checking people in real time on this stuff, man, because if we allow it to slide, then we're going to allow people to just mislead everybody. And we're going to allow people to walk around uninformed or misinformed about things that really, really has a big role to play in the quality of our lives. So, yo, let's get it together. Let's check people. Let's stay on our P's and Q's, man, because this is really a transition period for our country. And how we come out on the other end for our children is determined by the decisions and the actions that we do right now. And so let's stand up and let's speak out against this, and let's not accept this deceptive language any longer in our society. Yo, this is your boy D Mac, man. Y'all know what I say. Sticks and stones can break your bones, but the word can always heal you. I'm out.